Pretty cool one here today. What's up, guys? Nolan here. As some of you noted last time, I remembered my credentials this time. I don't know what the point of me getting this was if I'm not going to remember it. Don't worry about the card on the back, however. But, you know, I've got my press pass. So I am credentialed to be in the city of Tarkov at the time. Don't worry about it. Now, for the subject today, it's pretty important. So let's get to it. In-raid traders. Now, I'm working on a video that's a pretty big one. It's every single thing that I've talked about for the last 5 years, plus years, however long I've been doing this, that hasn't shown up yet, right? If Nikita and the boys over at BSG are keeping some surprises, which they absolutely are for 1.0, we have to try and figure out what that might end up looking like. On the low end of the spectrum, like the obvious stuff, of course, we're going to be getting Terminal. It really seems like we're going to be getting the Black Division because they've shown the gear, and they even called it BD within the gear itself. So those things are on the low end of the spectrum. But then what about like certain guns? What about certain things that they might show up as DLC? And what are the things that we are almost certainly not getting, which is something like open world? We're not getting open world. We'll talk about that in its own video. But within the research that I was getting for that, we actually got a Nikki leak today, which was Prapper sitting at his desk. Now, this is nothing new, but the concept has been rehashed with the hardcore wipe. The concept of in-raid traders in particular. Nikita and the boys at BSG have always said they wanted in-raid traders as a thing for the full campaign. You go and meet these people in real life. Well, in-game. Same thing that we get with Lightkeeper, it's just the normal traders. Now, with the hardcore wipe, we saw the transitions as part of 1.0. The original plan, potentially not so much anymore, was that you were going to be starting on one location, ground zero, and then transition to the other maps. As you go from ground zero to another map, you unlock that one, you unlock the next one, transition to another map, you unlock the next one, so on, so forth. Potentially, where if you wanted to get into maps like labs, you would have to transition from streets or potentially ground zero with your key card to actually get into labs exactly the same way as we did with the labyrinth, and we go down a rabbit hole from there. That is something that I'm going to be discussing in that video. That subject in particular might even get its own video. However, the concept of in-raid traders with the backlash that showed up because of transitions from the hardcore wipe is something that people might need to get used to. We already knew about Prapper. Prapper is going to be in game. They already showed it to us last year in that trailer, but some of you guys might not notice or might not have noticed. We've got Therapist here as well. You'll notice that setup with her jacket there where it's the blue, you got the lab coat over it with the white line going through it. That is actually Therapist right there. They're doing some actual character modeling. Actually, no, that wouldn't be modeling. That would be some kind of animation. So she is bending over to pick something up off of a desk or something, but and the reason why I say desk is because she doesn't have a lower half there. So they, for some reason or another, are not worrying about manipulating the lower half of her body there. So she might be sitting behind a desk like I am here, and then reaching over to try and grab something. That is what they seem to be animating there. So that is almost certainly Therapist when she's wearing that kind of a getup. Additionally, we also have some other things here. We've got Mechanic as the other stuff that I was able to find quickly, and we've got Mechanic's background. So depending on where these locations are, we can base it off of the wiki, we can base it off of lore. Not quite sure, but the thing that is quite obvious here is that the in-raid traders are coming. What that's going to look like, we don't have details, but I think it is something that is going to be quite jarring for most people. What if you want to interact with these traders and you have to go into raid to do so unless you have Intel Center 1 where you have the laptop and then you're going to be able to interact with these traders? That genuinely might be one of the things that they end up dropping on us for 1.0. Now, do they full on drop it on us, or do they explain things like that in, for instance, PAX West, the Tokyo Game Show, and whatever else they might be planning on doing for press releases for Tarkov TVs up until that point? It's yet to be seen, it's yet to be heard, it's yet to be actually put into writing and be like, this is exactly what's happening. So again, because of the way that the hardcore wipe happened, we got to see what's going on. Let's take people's temperature and let's see what's going on with that. If you did need to go into a raid to be able to interact with your traders, what would you guys think about that? And then if you needed Intel Center 1 to be able to interact with them, to purchase from them potentially, without having to go into raid. So there would be a solution to that. We wouldn't need to always go into raid in order to interact with them to accept a task or something like that. What would you think about that? And then there's levels to that. What if for every single turn-in task, like we have with Lightkeeper, you would have needed to bring that golden Zippo or the bronze pocket watch, the golden Zippo, whatever it might be. I always mix those two up. Whatever it might be. What if you needed to physically not only get out of customs, but bring them to Prapper, to bring them to Skier, to bring it to bring your gunsmith build to mechanic physically in raid itself? Let's get the conversation going with that. This is pretty much all I wanted to discuss today, because this stuff seems like this is what's going to happen. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, what does that look like to you guys? Let's get the conversation going. If we want to do a Tarkov.community post, we can. There's also a lot of stuff that's posted up there in terms of what's coming in the future. But this is something that I thought would be quite jarring. This is something that I wanted to get the conversation moving, and I wanted to get everybody's temperature on what this would look like, because it does seem like this is going to be the reality. So what do you guys think? Let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for more. We've got PAX West coming up this weekend. Sure to be some news that's coming up there. Otherwise, to support what I do, click all the buttons on the screen or come by a stream. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. Hope you have a nice day. See you guys.